Hello, my name's Mr Jones. I'm Deputy Teacher at Boswells and I'm one of the teachers that delivers the A-Level History qualification alongside Mr Dagger, Head of History, and Miss Smythe, who is currently one of our Heads of Year at Boswells. So this is information for the new intake starting next academic year. In terms of some key facts about the course, there are 3 examinations. They are weighted differently depending on the paper. So paper 1 and paper 3 are each worth 30% and paper 2 is worth 20%. There is an element of coursework and that is delivered in year 13. In terms of who will teach you, in year 12 it's currently myself and Miss Smythe that deliver the course, and in year 13 it is myself and Mr Dagger that deliver the course. That is subject to change year on year depending on how the timetable works out, but that's how it is delivered at the present time. In terms of how the course is taught, in year 12 you have 2 lessons per week dedicated to Communist Russia, which is paper 1, and 2 lessons per week dedicated to Communist China, which is paper 2, and that runs until May of year 13. Paper 3 and coursework will be taught throughout the majority of year 13, with 3 lessons per week on paper 3, which is Britain Losing, Gaining an Empire, and 1 lesson per week on coursework. You have a bit of a taster towards the end of year 12 with those topics. Looking at the different papers, we have paper 1, we go down route E now for our A-level qualification. So we're looking at Russia 1917 to 91, so it's a breadth period study from Lenin to Yeltsin. So looking at the communist government in Russia or the USSR from 1917 to 85, industrial and agricultural change, control of the people and social developments throughout that entire period. So we'll be looking at it from a breadth point of view, looking at the key concepts of causation, consequence, change and continuity, similarity and difference. Within this paper there is also an interpretation section, and that looks at what explains the fall of the USSR from 1985 to 1991. The paper is assessed via a 2-hour and 15-minute exam. It's worth 30% of the qualification. So you have 2 sections that offer a choice of 2 questions that are content based, and you have a 3rd compulsory section that is about the interpretation. So in total for this paper you look at answering 3 20-mark questions. In terms of why we teach this particular topic, it's something that students have expressed an interest in looking at over the years. It complements the topics that we do at GCSE, so for example looking at the Cold War, looking at developments in Germany at GCSE. So it's really something that builds upon the knowledge and the foundations that we build lower down the school. It's also something that is really prevalent to today's society, looking at how things have changed, but also looking at the power of Russia and international relations between Russia and other nations at the moment. This period sees the birth of some key characters like Putin, like Roman Abramovich as well. In terms of paper 2 is delivered by Miss Smythe and is worth 20% of the course, and that looks at MAO'S China from 1949 to 76, looking at establishing a communist rule, agriculture and industry, the Cultural Revolution and its aftermath, social changes from 1949 to 1976. It's assessed via a 1-hour and 30-minute exam. As I said, it's worth 20%. You have 1 question that is based around sources and 1 question that is based around content. You get a choice of 2 for the content questions. In total, it's 2 20-mark questions. So again, this period of history is absolutely fascinating, and the way that it's assessed is quite interesting as well. In terms of why we study this period of history, China is absolutely essential to understanding the current world of politics and the current global issues that we face as a global community, and this period is really, really important in understanding how China has arrived to be the nation that they are today. You also have some of the most infamous periods of history and the most infamous incidents in history and modern history that take place during this period, and again it really complements what we study at GCSE, but also moving forward to look at what you do with Russia and later on in the course as well.
In terms of paper 3 is Britain Losing, Gaining Empire from 1763 to 1914. This involves 2 breadth studies, which is the changing nature and extent of trade and the changing nature of the Royal Navy. In addition, there are then 5 depth studies that look at America, Australia, Canada, India and Egypt, and again they are extremely detailed and are very, very interesting, particularly in the current climate where the nature of the British Empire is being debated quite openly, and again it gives students an insight into that and to have a well-rounded view on those issues, both the good and the bad of the British Empire. The assessment is 2 hours and 15 minutes, and again, it's worth 30% of the qualification, so the same volume, the same percentage as the Germany units. There is one source question, and there are two essay questions. In addition to that, one of those is a breadth study that looks at either the Navy or trade, and one of the depth studies looks at one of those depth studies across the 5 colonies. In terms of why we study the British Empire, we've looked at it already, but the British Empire really did shape world history for a very long period of time, and is something that even today is very front and centre of Britain's standing in the world and the way the world works at the moment. So as I've already mentioned, the British Empire is quite controversial, both in terms of the way in which Britain expanded their empire, treatment of the colonies, treatment of peoples within the colonies. It is a hotly debated topic and one that can be quite controversial. So in terms of, in addition to the history side of it and understanding Britain's place in the world, actually having a grounding in that debate and being able to articulate the viewpoints is absolutely essential and something that is really at the heart of teaching this component. Finally, we have the coursework. The coursework is one 3,000 to 4,000 word essay, and that is due to be completed by the April of year 13, and that is worth 20% of the qualification. So staff and students, we can collaborate on the question that you do. Currently, our students do a question based around the origins of the Cold War, but that is something that is not set in stone. And if students want to pursue something completely different, as long as they can meet the criteria for the coursework, that's absolutely fine. The criteria is for there to be a question that is debated by historians that have different viewpoints, so that you as an individual can weigh up those viewpoints and come to your own conclusion. In terms of why we teach the Cold War for our coursework, there's a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, it is quite an interesting topic that has many facets to it, be it the actual history behind it, the end of World War II, the dominating presence of the US and the USSR within Europe, be it the fact that it's a conflict that spans the best part of 45 years, or be it the key personalities involved, people like Roosevelt, people like Stalin, people like Churchill, that really did frame the next 45 years of history. There are some key events within the origins of the Cold War, looking at the atomic bomb. That's something that on its own you could indeed write a piece of coursework about. In addition to that, is something that we have some specialist knowledge of within the faculty, and it is also something that there's a plethora of resources available. But again, if students want to do their coursework on a different topic, that's absolutely fine as long as they can meet those criteria.
So to get started, there's a number of things you can do, and there are some suggestions coming up, but you can look at a wide range of history podcasts and documentaries that will complement any reading that you do. We ask you to read some sections of Prisoners of Geography, which is an interesting book on how nations' geographical features can impact their foreign policy. There are chapters in there on America, Russia/Soviet Union and China, as well as Western Europe. And you also have Oliver Stone's Untold History of the USA, offers a different perspective on modern American history and is a good starting point to look at interpretations of the past, and certainly covers aspects of the coursework that you look at towards the end of year 12 and throughout year 13.
And there's a selection of things that you can watch or listen to here. I'm not going to read through them all, but again, a good starting point here to pique that interest. If there's anything that we haven't covered in this presentation, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. So first port of call will be Mr. Dagger, Head of History, and his email address is on the screen for you there, jdr@boswells-school.com. You could email Miss Smythe at ssm@boswells-school.com, or myself, Mr. Jones, sjs@boswells-school.com. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Hopefully you found this informative, but again, if there's anything else you'd like to know, please don't hesitate to contact one of us. Thank you.